Hello and welcome to another episode of Pareusi's On a Knife Edge podcast. Today we have a chef with more class than Michelin. Guy Owen.
Right.
That's the level.
That's so
That's
good.
the level of this podcast.
Good.
Great to have you on, mate.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah, I just really wanted to pop over because during my days when I was chefing with Tom Bennett, stay there.
Yeah.
We would always look at what you're doing and keep an eye on things.
No,
and,
it's flashy. Flashy gets you everywhere.
Inspiration.
Here, yeah.
I just want to know more about your journey in catering. So you can start right at the beginning. Maybe not as far as birth.
Well, yeah, at birth. Well, okay. So, I mean, I was brought up with a very cooking-oriented family. So my grandmother was she was the WI market, head of the WI market. A lot of baking. You know, she was this wonderful woman. You know, 5'2", but you know she may as well have been 7 foot. You know, baked all the time. Amazing Sunday roast as a kid. My other grandmother did a lot of cooking as well. She was in the Wrens in the army for a period of time in her early days. So lots of that. But my mum was my main sort of tutor, if you like, as a young kid. So she's been a cook and a chef for 40 odd years, and she runs 2 private catering companies. And we were taught, you know, she was a single parent, really hard working, and we were taught we needed to fend for ourselves as much as we could, as far as cooking goes and stuff like that, at various times. So we were learning from a very young age how to do the basics, cook an egg, cook some pasta and stuff like that, which she was very willing to teach us. And it was always fresh food with her, so never processed foods in our house.
Nice.
So things like having puddings at the end of meals was not really a thing for us. She always wanted to cook fresh, so we had a very healthy upbringing. No processed foods and those sorts of things of the 80s and 90s that you think of. And then as a young man, I used to fish a lot. I used to go fly fishing. My grandfather would teach me how to catch my fish, gut my fish. My mother would then teach me how to cook the fish. So it was that whole journey really from like a really young age. So we were kind of surrounded by cooking and always cooking, having good food. And when I was about 13 years old in Mevagissey, I just went down and got my first job, which was tumbling potatoes and chipping them for the local chippy. Okay. Worked through, got onto salads, making salads, and then frying. Which is probably against the law, thinking about it now, being a 14-year-old and frying. But anyway, that was a long time back. Was a bit more relaxed. Exactly. And then I got a job in a local restaurant called the Salamander, working for Steve and Sarah. And it was the first time I'd ever really seen, restaurant-y food. It was sort of one rosette. Feel to it, so good cooking,
yeah, good standard.
Good, stuff well done and thought through, and it was fresh food. And then that was it. My journey sort of began there, and I didn't really know how much I enjoyed cooking until I went to college. I went there to go and study a diploma to be in the police. Right. Anyway, after a year of that, academia wasn't really my thing. Being a practical man,
quite a similar story with a lot of chefs, isn't it?
I think it is, and I found a buzz in the kitchen. So I was about 18 or so by then, and I got a job in St Maur's at the Rising Sun, which was a restaurant on one side, working for Anne Long, and then a pub on the other. Okay. And she was the vice president of the Master Chefs, or the Great British Master Chefs. And she took an interest in me, very strict.
Really? Quite old school.
Kicked my ass. Yeah, definitely kicked my ass. Made plenty of kind of mistakes. And then eventually she turned around to me and she goes, she could see I was passionate, could see I was focused, and I wanted more. I was becoming frustrated and potentially moving into a period of time where, as a very young man, if I hadn't have done something, I could have just sort of petered off and just done nothing and just sort of, trod water for a period of time. But she says, you need to go to London and you need to go into a really full-on kitchen and get your head kicked in for a bit. And I said, okay. So from then, 2 weeks at home, that conversation, 2 weeks later, I was working for Gordon Ramsay.
You were
Claridges. Yeah, I was at Claridges. Yeah, Gordon Ramsay at Claridges. And that was baptism by fire. And I was very lucky in the people I met. One thing I learned about restaurants up in London at that level, so, you know, going from sort of 2 Rosette food to Michelin food, was the people are the most crucial thing, right? The guys that you work with. And it was amazing. And I met, you know, Matt and Sally. You know, Sally's amazing chef in her own right, does a lot of great things. And Matt is sort of Gordon's right-hand man now, runs restaurant Gordon Ramsay for him. And, you know, they really helped me. And so I went there, did a bit of time there, struggled at times, definitely. I mean, it's 35 chefs, going from a 3-chef kitchen in sleepy St Mawes to 35 chefs, 100 miles per hour. You know, the standards of brutal. You know, if anything's wrong, you're up for it. You know, it was tough.
Was it like when you picture what the old kitchen would be like in like 70s and 80s?
I think
quite fiery, quite.
Yeah, I mean,
like that?
I mean, a lot of stuff happened. Yeah, I mean, back then it was, you know, if any of that stuff happened now, it'd be just no way. You couldn't do it. And so
it's definitely changed, doesn't it?
Yes, you know, there's lots of stories and, you know, things like that which you can go into, which are crazy to think of it, you know, but it was what it was. It was the whole culture. It was the kitchen. I suppose I was sort of towards the end of that sort of fierce culture where you were more of a number than a person. But I really wanted to do a good job. And so, but anyway, in time, I struggled with it. I went to a French-Japanese fusion restaurant and worked with a friend of mine there. And worked up to sous chef there. I wanted to learn about Asian food. And then from there, I went to La Trompette, Michelin-style brasserie in Chiswick, with James Bennington and the guys there. Loved it, but my God, it was a hardcore kitchen. You know, Michelin-style brasserie food. It was a team of 4 on a service, 4 or 5, and you know, you're doing, you know, a ton 20, a ton 30 a service.
At Michelin style.
Yeah, it's full on. I mean, it was full on, and it was insane. I learned so much. I'd gone into there very kind of precise. You know, how many carrot batons per dish, chef? You know, type of thing. Yeah. You know, and I'd be like, it needs to be 7, and he'd look at me and go, can you just fucking give me some carrot batons, please? And I'm just like, yeah, but I need to know how many, chef. And, you know, like this. So I had to learn and sort of change myself a lot there because it was about the freedom of food suddenly. It wasn't about everything has to be counted and done. It was about what sat on the plate in the right way. So a duck breast can, you know, you can buy 50 duck breasts and every single one's a different shape or size. So it's going to want a touch more veg or a touch less veg. So this was about feeling food. And it was the first restaurant I'd ever worked in where that you had to feel your way through it more. And it totally changed my concept of food. It was an amazing period of sort of my life. And then we had some struggles and, you know, some bad news in the family. I was both of my grandmothers in a space of 3 months, and it kind of hit me really hard. And I kind of suddenly looked at what I was doing up in London. I was away from family. I was away from them for sustained periods of time. And I thought, I need to move back down towards Cornwall and feel nearer my family and very close family. So I went to Gidleigh Park, Michael Caine's, at two stars. And, you know, the level of detail is crazy. And what Michael does, you know, his journey is crazy. His CV is crazy. You know, it was a real journey and a real, again, big learning curve. That you had to, how precise you had to be. There were methods to everything. You know,
is Michael very much more back then, or even now, much more kind of structured?
Everything.
Like how you previously were. Everything's just.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, even to the way that you had to warm up purees for the table. Like you had to warm them up a certain way. You know, it was a herb puree. You had to warm it very gently on the edge of the stove in a certain pan. It would be sent up, used. It would be given back to you. You would then need to wipe the pan down, cling film it, put it back on away to one side until you used it again. It was like that, very processed, very, very processed, which was amazing to learn, but was really when I began to realise that culture isn't for me. You know, I became so engrossed with feeling food and feeling my way through it that I thought this wasn't really necessarily where I saw my future, you know, and what I wanted to do is, and I don't think anything away from what people in 2- and 3-star restaurants need to like do. It's insane. It is incredible. It really is the very top of the tier when it comes to food. But for me personally, I feel like some of the soul isn't there. You're missing it. You're missing out on it. You know, it's wide.
It's a process, like.
Yes, it is, but it's sort of, why do we do it that way? Because it works, and that's how it's done. So just, you know, that's it. As opposed to, if I talk to my junior staff and they go, why do we do it that way? It's like, well, actually, this way for this dish works better, and I feel it kind of, we get the right end product for what we want. But sometimes it's not it's not the same every single time, but it basically is. But it means that chefs I feel that when we teach our chefs, they're learning how to cook. And actually, at the beginning of it all, we get because the catering industry became such a fashion during the sort of 2000s, 2010, 2015, it was so fashionable to be a chef, you know, and the effing and jeffing and the pencil behind your ear and all this sort of stuff, you know, that I think a lot of people were so focused on being called a chef and being a chef that actually they forgot our core job is to cook people's food. And if you want a dinner, yeah, I'll cook you kind of dinner, you know, and it can be a simple dish through to a very technical, you know, Michelin star dish or whatever. But the essence was still learning how to cook. So enjoy the process of cooking. Don't enjoy just the process. Enjoy the process of what you're doing, how you season. I suppose a big one I saw was Raymond Blanc teaching somebody how to season mushrooms in a pan. It seems crazy. But when you see somebody like Raymond Blanc, who is a TV guy, and, you know, I think a lot of people who are on the TV, there's a lot of show and how they kind of do things. But Raymond Blanc, I don't think, is one of those people. He's one of those guys who is so naturally in love with food, the romance of food. Watching him teach a chef how to season wild mushrooms in a pan, you know, you get a lot of chefs who are in the shit, and they're throwing salt into a pan, and they're doing it all at this sort of height, and they're banging it in and stuff like that. That's only seasoning a tiny part.
Yeah.
But Raymond's telling him to stop and like shake the pan slowly, season from up here. But when you watch somebody do that with such love, that's a beautiful thing, and that is what I love about food. Anyway, I left Gidleigh. And I was going to go to Australia or the USA, and I had some contacts at the French Laundry in Napa Valley.
Wow.
And I'd had a job offer for a Royal Mail hotel in Australia for Dan Hunter. And I needed to have a surgery on my hand. So basically, I'd played 5-a-side football 2.5 years back or whatever, when I went to Reading to visit my sister, and sprained my thumb. Had some x-rays done. They were like, it's fine. Anyway, my hand kept locking up. Went back to Oakhampton Surgery Hospital for an x-ray, and I had a broken hand. So they said, you've had a broken hand for 2.5 years. And I said, brilliant. And what had happened is the first bone in your hand is a scaphoid bone, and it had snapped in half and was floating around my hand. It was basically getting lodged in a joint and causing my hand to sort of seize up a bit. So, but the other problem is that it's the first bone that feeds your hand blood. So the surgeon looked at me after the x-rays and the MRI scans and all that and said, if we don't operate on this within 6 months, you're going to lose your left hand, basically.
Is that bad?
Yeah, so I was like, so I had to tread water for a bit, and I went to the Cornwall Hotel, because I went back to St Austell, Cornwall Hotel, to help Tom Bradbury for a bit there, and pending this hand op, and then met Chris Eden. Then he's very close friends with Tom, and he said, I want to get a Michelin star, I need a sous chef, stop fucking around with these things and maybe going overseas and come and work for me. And I was like, okay, because I'd met my now wife at the time as well, so this is like 15 or 16 years ago, whatever. And so I sat down with him, and he just read me the Right Act. We went to Costa Coffee outside St Austell, and he read me the Right Act. And he's like, literally looking at me in the eye, black fucking eyes. He's fucking crazy, man. And he's like, this is going to fucking hurt. you're going to regret it at times. I'm gonna fucking regret it at times, but we're gonna do it. And I believed in him instantly. Just meeting him, and I was like, yeah, he means business. And his CV was great, you know, a bit of Marco on there, you know, Philip Howard, who's, you know, one of the real greats, Philip Howard, and the way that they cooked and stuff like that. And so I thought to myself, yeah, this is a guy who I really wanted to follow. So I started at the Driftwood, and the Driftwood back then was doing 22 covers at max, right. only dinner service and breakfast. And it was fucking in at 7 o'clock, and you're there all day pushing 7 different breads, like mental. And so we worked like absolute fucking dogs. And the guys, you know, the conveyor belt almost, the chefs coming in and being like, oh yeah, we can do it, and leaving. And yeah, the year he won the Star was, I think he and I worked about a 2.5 or 3 month straight period without a day off. We were having like lates and stuff like that, but it was that thing of we just needed to do it, we needed to get in there and do it. And he and it was it was crazy. It was a shit fight, and there were 4 of us in the kitchen that happened, and it was midday. Simon Olston, I don't know how he always gets the information straight off the cuff, but he was like, rang up Chris, and he's like, you fucking done it, because the internet crashed. It's the first time I think they released a guide on the internet without having to buy the book. And it was coming out at midday. It was like October the 6th or something. And he was like, you fucking done it, you've done it. And we didn't believe it until we'd seen it. Yeah. The internet crashed, the site crashed because everyone was trying to log on. And then Philip Howard called him, and it was just an extraordinary moment. And then we went to celebrate afterwards, and there's a very famous story amongst chefs who've worked at the Driftwood about Chris necking a pint of port, and that very famous night that happened. So it was. We went to Bradbury's new place, the Kingswood in London, Apprentice, and we just celebrated. It was an extraordinary moment, and yeah, a really good moment.
So
and
you were part of the core team that got.
There were 4 of us in the kitchen at the time. It was me, Chris, Nick Hawke, who we called Hawkeye, and Tim Pyle, and that was it. And you know, there were guys who. One of the guys had walked out that morning, like it was just after like a commie or whatever like that, but he didn't know we'd won the Star, and he'd gone that morning, and it was just really full on. It was hard work, but it was not like, it wasn't hell, it was just really hard work. Yeah, and it was great, and it was, you know, it was part of it, but it was just the whole romance of what Chris installed in there, this tiny boxy kitchen where the ventilation was like nowhere to be seen. You know, pastry was basically in like a greenhouse, and we were trying to do like sugar work and stuff like that, like cylinders and stuff, and they would just melt 7 different breads. But it was all good. It was all what the process was there. You had to buy into it and buy into Chris, and he was relentless in his kind of pursuit of excellence, of wanting to give the guests the best experience possible without taking any shortcuts. So it was an amazing thing. You know, he's proven himself at Gidleigh. He's done an amazing time there. He's gained the Star. You know, did everything he said he was going to do. And you know, he's fucking old. I mean, he's so fucking... Have you seen how grey he is now? He's going to say...
I'm going to edit that bit into a little short.
Oh, yeah, do it.
I'll tag him in
yeah, do it. He's... but he's going to be... so, yeah, you've got to start slowing down. So no, but I think it's amazing for him, and it was, you know, when he was thinking about it and stuff, we talked about it a little bit, but you know, he's a man, when he makes up his mind, he sticks to it. You know, after the Driftwood, I made a poor choice. I went to Jersey for a bit. My wife was just become a newly qualified nurse. We weren't married at that point, and I went to Jersey to work with a group which was more Brasserie food orientated. I sort of thought, oh, okay, you know, I'll pursue this, become a group chef, and that's what I kind of want to do. And it didn't work out that way. It was the wrong company for me to be working with. But Beck was committed to her role. She had to do a full year after you finished to become fully qualified. And so we got engaged in Jersey, and then I was just like, look, you know, I don't think this is working out for me, to the owners of the group, and they said okay. And literally, as I finished that conversation, my phone rang, and when I'm saying literally, it was within 5 minutes of walking away from the conversation, and it was about the old Idle Rocks, and they said, "Would you be interested in it?" And I went upstairs to the back, and I was like, "You're not going to believe this," because we wanted to move back to Cornwall, right? And she was like, "What?" And I said, "The Idle Rocks have just called me." So I flew over and met with David and Karen Richards and had a chat with them, and they were kind of fed up, a bit furious, and they sort of said, we've spent a heck of a lot of money redoing it from the old Idle Rocks, which is a very dated 80s nautically themed, to this beautiful, it's beautiful Idle. It's just such a beautiful spot right on the sea. They're very tastefully done. We had this bespoke Elro kitchen. David used to eat in the restaurant and come in the kitchen to cool down.
Really?
Isn't that not insane, right?
Oh,
it was like
so
insane.
Nice.
All the gizmos, everything. It was just so beautifully set up, and it was just, God, it was beautiful. So I went in, and I was like, and they said, look, we just need it to settle. We just want some good food. We need the team to settle and stuff like that, and somebody who's going to work hard for that. And I said, yeah, great. And then, we did it. Idle was great. It was definitely hard, very hard work. But my God, I had the most insane team at Idle, from Samira Effa, Lawrence, Tim Kendall, Bambi, amazing. Luke Hill, Martin, Martin's still with me now, Matt Durnin, who's with me now still. Just some really, we all talk as friends now. They were really special people, and we just did something really good at Idle. We won, coming away from Idle, I did 5 years there. I think we'd won 22 different accolades in that period of time. Yeah, so we'd won a lot of regional stuff, best restaurant, best chef, best hotel, restaurant, all that. We were in the Michelin guides. We were ticking all of the right boxes, and we did a lot. And then we won a national award, which was the caterer best seafood restaurant, UK best seafood restaurant, which is a big honour. And Gus came down and stuff, and we got presented this thing, and it was mind blowing. And working with David, who's got Pro Drive, his background is he was the champion 1983, 1985 rally world champion with Ari Vatanen, and so he's got Pro Drive, which is in Banbury in Oxford. And it's an incredible business. He builds all of the racing. He builds a lot of the racing modular. So all of the, you've got, is it Richard Burns, the former rally driver, Colin McRae, these kind of guys. He was part of building all of their cars. So he works with Aston. He was the CEO of Aston Martin for 10 years. Heard that. Yeah, and just incredible attention to detail. So at Idle, you had to buy into that with David, and if you did, he was a really good, interesting person to work for. He would back you, he'd look after you, and that was the most important thing there. And but things like he'd turn around a business. Everybody, if you went to Pro Drive, every car, and there'd be 200 cars of the staff, would be reversed into their spaces. Because that was just a policy there. You have to reverse your car into the space. So his mindset was that we do that because then people are already at work before they've walked in through the front door. So that was a big cultural thing. So he's like, and you could always tell if somebody was either visiting or somebody was lazy if they didn't do those things. So it was really clever. But Pro Drivers, you could eat your dinner off the floor in the main car warehouse. It was crazy. And they were building all of the Subaru racing modular, the Aston Martin, the Le Mans 24-hour race. They won it one of the years that we were there. He's crazy. And then right through to building Ben Ainsley's yacht for around the world races.
He did that as well?
Yeah, he's mental. It was great. It was really interesting. And it was, some of that was the buzz of some of that. He'd pick us up in his chopper and take us out for lunch, and stuff like that. And so it was learning about that, and then having these sort of almost superhumans, Sterling Moss coming for lunch, Jensen Button and Damon Hill, and it was crazy culture.
I had no idea that was going on.
Yeah, and he would do the St Maur's car rally every year, which is a four day thing.
What is that? Because I think I saw something about
it's vintage cars which come down. All very beautiful vintage cars. Nick Mason, the former drummer from Pink Floyd, came down. He comes down at a £24 million Ferrari, California, 1960s or 70s. I mean, just insane, like insane. And it's a strange world to be looking at from such a modest job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, we're working class, right? So it's sort of like, you look and you think, wow, it is amazing. But I don't know, I never felt like that around David. It was always, he'd always listen and take on board. And if he wasn't happy with something, you bloody knew it. But if he was happy about something, you would know it, you know. And it was an extraordinary period of my life.
So as you can probably tell, some things have happened. I've now got dressed, and we're in a different area of the restaurant because we had a bit of a problem with the camera. Anyway, to continue, so we've gone through your past in your career, and now up to present day.
Yeah.
Currently here. So
we're here, yeah. So the St Enodoc Hotel. So I joined here January 2020, and the idea, the whole mindset was that we wanted to open up 2 restaurants. So we had the Brasserie, and then we were going to open up a small fine dining restaurant. Nathan Outlaw was formerly here, held 2 Michelin stars. This was restaurant Nathan Outlaw where we're sat in now. And then, so yeah, that was the sort of scope. So loved the idea of it. We then thought of the restaurant name. We called it Carrick, which is a Cornish word for rock. We're in rock, all kind of made sense. And we opened the Brasserie first, and we got that sorted and levelled, and the team, the time wasn't necessarily best suited for what we were trying to do. The hotel had become quite sleepy, I think. Okay. And James and Lucy and Karen and Robert's vision was to really wake it back up again and to make it do something. So we went to, we opened the Brasserie. Some of that old team fell away, but some of the guys who I previously worked with came here, which was a great help. And then we opened up Carrick, and annoyingly, we opened up Carrick, and 8 days later, COVID happened. So we had to close it again. So it was a lot of work, because, you know, they really, really stuck by what they sort of said when we had met and stuff. I said, look, the place needs to clean up, the kitchens need to be cleaned up. Can we do that? And the entire kitchen was re-outroed, re-cladded. It was really cleaned up. We had a brand new bespoke stove built for us and all this. It was wonderful, and they really stuck by what they had said, which is actually quite rare in a lot of places. It's strange. People promise a lot of people the world, and then it doesn't happen. So it was very nice to be working with people who meant what they actually said. It was a really good thing. So yeah, Carrick had to shut. COVID happened, and I suppose the type of characters that they are as owners is very down to earth, salt of the earth, you know. So it was about making it as a positive situation as we possibly could, because we were all in such fear. That period of time, end of February through, and so I think we shut down officially the first time, 23rd of March 2020. Do you remember the fear? Like the fear of there was no money, there was nothing, right? So how are we going to get paid? We don't know. Furlough was a word we'd never heard of. You know, it was a really weird moment, and sad in lots of ways. But anyway, we flipped it in a really positive way. We did Food for Heroes. We created a hub, all off the back of a nurse who went to the supermarket and couldn't find basic fruit and veg. All the shelves were being stripped then. People were panic buying. Toilet paper was the main thing. You remember that? Weird. And it was like people were doing that. It was the panic. And so we started cooking meals for nurses. We didn't concentrate on Trellis, the big place. We really wanted to look after the smaller places. So my wife's a nurse back. So we went to the small surgeries, the small care homes. We ended up creating hubs, and Nick Hodges from Alverton and the Green Bank came on board and created a hub in Falmouth. And then we had Ben Ambridge at the Fox's Revenge, which is now the Tartan Fox. He came on board and created a hub there. We had chefs that would come here, so Tim Kendall and guys like that were coming up here and taking a day, because only 2 of you could work together because of the rules and all that sort of stuff. And I think from the beginning of it to the end of it, we produced something in the vicinity of 35,000 meals, and it was a really special. It was a cool thing to do, and it kept our mind sharp. But because we were working and we were still doing stuff, and we were keeping our kind of awe in, we were ready to go again. We were fine.
Because it didn't feel like that much of a change.
Yeah, no.
Still
and we were still cooking, and so there wasn't the big culture shock, the shock of coming back to it. So, yeah, we did that, and then Carrick was only able to open because of the uncertainty. We didn't want to recruit staff. One of the terrible things that had happened is that because we were a new restaurant, we had these guys who were joining the team in the February, and the furlough thing was like you had to be employed by the January in any business you worked for, and people were falling through the net. So we had 3 or 4 people, really incredible people. I mean, I think Neil, for me, who was a front of house guy, who's a really great guy, came on board in that late February period, and because he hadn't recorded a month's wages, he wasn't we couldn't give him furlough. So he was left high and dry, and we couldn't do anything because we had no income as like a business. So that was really tough, and he was amazing about the whole thing. But it was so when we came back, we were really cautious. So we were like, we're going to only open the fine dining restaurant 2 days a week. Yeah. We wanted it originally to be 5, 2 days a week, 2 single services, so evening services Friday and Saturday night. So we could run our team. I could utilise me in the brasserie 3 days a week and here 2 days a week. Martin in the brasserie 3 days a week and here 2 days a week. So we were crossing our teams across, so we were saving as much money as we could, which didn't work in our favour because we opened the restaurant and then we got to, the brasserie was doing great, they were doing good things in there, and we got to, I think, like August 2022, September 2022, and we were a bit like, not being arrogant, but we were like, the Michelin guide haven't come down, the AA guide haven't come down. Why has nobody come down? So we spoke to them. I spoke to the Michelin guide and I said, why haven't you come down? And they said, well, you've got to be open for a minimum of 3 services a week. And I was like, what? I was like, what the fuck? Because the fine dining restaurant here was to earn accolades, right? And it was like, so I said that to James and Lisa. I said, look, we're going to have to try and open for 1 more day a week, like on the Thursday. And they were amazing. They've been super positive about everything. And they were like, yep, 100%, that's fine. So we went ahead, did it, and then, they came down in the October or the November, I think, and ate and put us into the guide, which was great. They visited a few more times, 2023. I think they came 3 times in 2023, and the AA guide came. They gave us 3 rosettes straight off the bounce, which was amazing to walk into.
That's quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It was very flattering, and it was really nice. And talking to the seniors at the AA guide, and they came down to inspect because you have to be inspected by a senior to achieve 3 rosettes. And when we were recommended 3 rosettes by one of their inspectors, and it was very flattering, and we were very honoured to have got it. And so yeah, we were on the right track, and the Hardens guide had given us an exceptional food accolade. The Good Food Guide, first time I'd ever been in part of the Good Food Guide. We went in at very good, which is the 2nd highest rating, which was really lovely. It was lovely, and it was all feeling right. And it was what was so nice about it is that we were cooking from just around here, like the area. We were trying to be as, almost as Nordic in our mindset of just trying to bring everything in, our fermentations and stuff like that. We were working with like Sharks Brewery, utilising their beers and their grains and aging their grains, and we were making Worcester sauce from their beer and Cornish pilchards and all these sorts of things. It was very natural, and it was a restaurant which didn't take itself too seriously. It was 9 courses. And sometimes, depending on, because we grow a lot of our own produce, we've got the grounds, we've got a 220-acre farm up in Campton where we rear our own livestock, our beef, our lamb. We've got lots of pigs up there. We've still got lardo from them, it's just because you've got to cure lardo for like 2 years. And then we've still got that in the freezer. We use that for dishes now. And then we've got a 100-foot polytunnel. So it was a lot about, connecting with how things grow, what you can grow. Our gardening team are amazing. They grow everything from your radishes and your beetroots through to, we've got 3 citric trees, yuzu, finger lime trees and things, and crazy, very old-fashioned herbs that you can't find anymore. And it was so guests could come in the depths of winter and they would have a 9-course menu. But in the late spring, when everything's growing, there's loads of everything, a guest could come in and have 15 courses because there were some beautiful violet French artichokes that we had 6 of that were ready, and we were like, right, let's pick them. We'll just put something on, and we'll go and pick some herbs from around the gardens and do like a broth, and that would be just like an extra course. So Carrick was this lovely, fluid restaurant, where it was an ever-changing space. And, the guests who came really loved it. But, at the end of the day, business is business, and we had to make the tough choice through the current economic climate we're facing to close Carrick, which wasn't something we wanted to do. Obviously, it was a tough decision to make, but we need to survive at the moment, and I think a lot of businesses are doing the same thing, and they're really looking at it.
All you can do now is just adapt.
Of course, you have to.
Try and get through this really rough patch.
Absolutely, and never be too arrogant to think that, I can only do fine dining or whatever like that. In this climate, you are dictated by the people who are purchasing your product. We're cooks. I'm very proud to be a cook. It's nice to be known as a chef and all the rest of it, but my job is to cook people's dinner, and we need to remain focused on that fact, and everybody needs to remain focused on that fact. So, we wanted to, we needed to pull back and use this as like a multifaceted space now. So we use it for functions. We still do fine dining nights with Sharks Brewery. Ed Hughes comes down and we pairs 9 courses with different beers, and it's really good. One of the dishes we do is cheese on toast. We do Cornish saffron bread, like a beer rarebit, the Worcester sauce that we make, some fermented, lacto-fermented garlic stem from the wild garlic season. And then we pickle the little garlic caperberry things, on the top, and then we do, and then we just grate a load of Cornish kern. So Cornish kern is just this local cheese that is made by just outside Helston.
Oh yeah.
And it's a hard cow's cheese. It's a style of cheese. It was the best in the world, 2017 or 2018. Amazing Cornish products. We were getting chickens from this amazing farm outside Truro called Foots Farm, and these chickens are massive, right? They are grown naturally, they're allowed to grow naturally, and they have this big sort of field of wildflower and grass. And in the summer, so you can only buy them fresh during the summer, and the chickens get let out at 6 a.m. in the morning, and they vanish into this very tall grass. They're left there the whole day. It's all fenced and stuff, and then they call them in at night. So it's a very natural product, but a beautiful chicken. I mean, and when you're dealing with chickens like that, they've got a much firmer texture to their meat. Their flavour is absolutely gorgeous. So, using producers like that, Cornish Golden Grains, again, outside Truro, they grow this Nordic grain called Oland's grain. We were making bread with that. We were doing a lot of things, and we were fermenting the grains and then cooking them in beer and stuff like that, from Sharps and things. And that's the secret. When you scratch beneath the surface, just because it's Cornish doesn't mean it's good. It's got to be. You've got to find the right people. So that goes to fish as well. George Cleves, who's in Port Isaac, incredible. The man is incredible. Confident. We could be ordering a Jean Dory, say we need 3 Jean Dory tomorrow, please, George. And then the fish would come in and it would be pink bream. And we go, George, we ordered Dory, and he goes, you don't want that because this is fucking banging. This is and it was like perfect fish, like sushi grade, perfect, immaculate fish. And that's the kind of people I want to work with. Because cooking is about feeling your way through it and feeling and understanding it. It shouldn't be about just a process. It should be feeling and looking. And when you're working with people like that, buyers like that, who are so passionate about what they do and so confident, it makes it a different challenge, because you go, oh shit, everything I had was based around Dory. Now I've got to do bream, so you've got to tweak it. But that's good, and that's why it was fluid cooking, and that's what was so good about Carrick. So yeah, sad it was a journey that ended. We put it on ice. It may come back, we're not sure. We did a feast night in here, orientated around the spring lamb season, so taking lambs from our farm. They go down to Philip Warren's, they look after the lamb, they butcher them for us and send it all down to us. Same thing with the beef. We did a summer barbecue event as well, and using some of our beef. So, that's been a 5-year period, getting our cow to the standard, a chef standard of cow. Amazing. Philip Warren and Ian Warren came down to the farm and gave us a proper lesson on how to rear, the whole, from breeding to rearing to finishing, everything. It was extraordinary. So amazing, again, to work with people who are so passionate and focused on what they do. That's a big part of the whole game. But you know, this year we changed a lot, so people's eating habits have changed a bit. We found we opened up our sort of demographic with the brasserie now, so small plates, snacks, and things like that, working really well. People can come in graze, a few drinks.
Quite relaxed, isn't it?
Exactly, and we want people to have a good time. Carrick was always relaxed. I mean, we always played like house music in here, and it was all relaxed. It was all chilled out. It was, as long as the service was slick and the knowledge was good. I think the most brilliant thing about going to any really good restaurant is if the staff know what they are actually talking about. They're confident with it.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like it's been rehearsed. If you go to a 3-star restaurant and you watch the seniors, the front of house, and how they work and how they manage a floor, I mean, the whole technical skill set in that is unreal. It's such a beautiful thing to watch.
Is it just flowing?
It's just magic. It's just magic. You know, I remember one of the greatest things about restaurant Gordon Ramsay, the first time I went there was when Jean-Claude was still running it, and in the front of house, and he had a photographic mind. And there were 50 to 55 guests, and he would ask everybody their first name as they came in, and he would call everybody by their first name through the whole night.
Remember the
whole restaurant. Yeah. So he would come up to you and goes, "Guy, yeah, this is for you." It was such a cool trick, but he was talking directly to you. You know what I mean?
Makes you feel like an individual.
Absolutely. Out of 55 guests, you know, it was extraordinary, and that level of service, and you know, James, who did the wine, his knowledge and the way he could turn and you know, look at the wine, he goes, I think this is going to be perfect for this, and whatever like that. And you know, if Matt sent us an extra course or whatever like that, it would always work, and he'd always think, and there was always this sort of like romance and story to it. Beautiful. I mean, like, beautiful.
A question I ask everyone
Right.
to finish the podcast off is, out of your whole career in hospitality, what would you say has been your proudest moment, or proudest achievement?
I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because I suppose with cooks, it's always, you know, it has to be accolade based, and you go, oh, accolades, and you know, and I've been really lucky and blessed that I've won some accolades, you know. But you know, the thing is accolades are great, but you can't do it without great people, right? And for me, over any accolade, over anything, it's watching the way that certain people in my teams over the years have grown. And I think, you know, for me, it's definitely the proudest things are seeing what they've gone on to do and how they've done it. And, you know, to be part of somebody's life, you know, they if you get long-term people who dedicate their time to you, it's an extraordinary thing. I feel very honoured by it, because I think, you know, I'm really grateful to them. So, you know, Idle, I had the most amazing group of people who we came together, and I was relentless at the Idle Rocks, right? I was relentless, and it was, you know, but Tim Kendall, Samir Effer, Lawrence Snowden were amazing. Matt Dernan, who's with me now, Martin, who's with me now, Luke Hill, who came here as a head chef, my brother Max, you know, just an amazing group of people. And what they've done, you know, I look at, say, like, what they go on to do. So I look at, like, Tim Kendall, you know, running 2 properties now with his wife Terry, and just so focused on what he's doing, but he's bloody good at it, you know. He's a really good cook. He's an amazing guy. Samira Effer, you know, she's up at Grantley Hall, running Restaurant 88. You know, this is a £100 million project, Grantley Hall, and she's part of this picture, and she got dealt with a load of shitty cards leaving Idle for the next couple of jobs that she took, which should have knocked her confidence, but it's just testament to her. Incredible, you know. And Lawrence has gone off. He went on to the yachts and wanted to explore the world a bit, you know. Luke, who's with me here, came on as a head chef. You know, they're doing some private dining now. Martin, who's, you know, started with me as a kitchen porter, knocked on the back door of Idle, couldn't speak a word of English, nowhere to live, no job, had been, you know, shafted and spent all of his money on a one-way ticket over to work in a different business, and they shafted him. Started as a KP. Samira and I were on the pass one day, and we had these silver pans with gold handles. We had 80 of them, and every fucking one was perfectly at an angle, in a perfect line, polished. We didn't ask him to do it. And I said, Samira, fucking look at that. And she was like, Jesus Christ. And so I went up to him, and I don't know why English people do this, but we seem to speak loudly at people who can't speak English, thinking it kind of helps. Yeah, I'm going to just shout at him. So I was like, do you want to cook? And he sort of was like, okay. And then so we started cooking, went back to the check for a bit, came back, and progressed. And he progressed with me. He's worked in a couple of 1-stars. He went to Hyde. He worked in a 1-star in Prague as well. And then he came in, became head chef of Carrick, and he's one of the most organised and disciplined chefs that I know. Very focused, loves his fine dining. You know, excellent chef, very passionate, loves to forage. You know, I was the chaos, he was the organised one.
So together you're quite...
It worked all right. I'd come in and I would like mess up his kitchen, like, because it was his baby, the kitchen, and I could see it in his eyes. He's like, for fuck's sake, this fucking guy. But it worked really well. And then, you know, I suppose my proudest, not achievement, that's wrong, because he's done so well for himself, is probably my brother Matt. And it really does choke me up talking about him, because, you know, he came to Idle the first time, and if we sat down here with Samir and Bambi and all the guys who worked there at the time, they were like, what was Max like in his first 6 months? Fucking hell. I mean, it was fucking chaos, right? It was such baptism by fire for him, because he was so passionate about cooking, but he had never been a chef. So he came over to the Idol to see what it was like, and he had a really hard time. But one thing I will never take away from him is that he wanted to do well. He always wanted to do well, yeah. And then he went back to the States for a bit, and then he was like, I need more, and came back to the Idol again for a second term. And he was 5 months, and then he left at the end of that second term, respected by the whole team. Really had become, you know, a solid chef. Yeah. Very shut the fuck up and listened and took everything on board, and the romance was beautiful. And he went back to the States again and worked for, you know, somewhere he shouldn't have worked, basically. Got frustrated and came back again. He's like a wasp at a fucking picnic.
Well, back to the Idol.
No, he came here this time, and he stayed here for 2.5 years. Came in as a chef de partie and became head chef, acting head chef. And the growth of that guy, the respect I have for him just as a cook, the fact I love him because he's my blood is beside the point. If anything, he got the fucking rawest deal anybody's ever had, because I'd hammer that guy for doing silly things that would take him away from being brilliant. But now he's sous chef of a 2 Michelin star restaurant in LA. And he's got a beautiful daughter, and it's like, it's a fucking really amazing story. It's amazing, but he did it, not me. He did it, and I suppose the biggest satisfaction and joy and love that I have is seeing that stuff happen. And I suppose that a part of that reason is why I like to invest my time into people is probably why people have been so loyal to me, you know, in lots of ways. You know, Samira was with me for 2.5 years, Lawrence was with me for 2 years, Bambi was with me for 3 years, Martin's been with me for 9 years. Wow. You know, it's been like, it's flattering, you know, it's wonderful. So yeah, anything, it's not accolades, it's not things we've won, because those are superficial things, and being in guides and winning things is the kind of the views on a small group. It's like eating a dish, or what music do you like? You know, I had this with Matt Dern and Scrat in our kitchen, our sous chef, who likes to listen to thrash metal at 7 a.m. in the fucking morning. I'm sorry. And he's like, right, yeah, to him, he's not awake. He's chilled out about it. I come in there and
that's kind of like listening to Bjork for us.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Right?
I feel fucking anxious. I'm like, what's going on? I start to breathe faster and stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's chill. And I'm just, you know, it's the same thing. So it's like people's ideas on food. Some people may come in and eat the food we cook here and love it. Some people may come in and go, what the fuck's this? It's like, you know, I don't know. So it's their guides and stuff like that. So for me, yeah, it's the people, and being the privilege I've had of being part of chefs' lives who I hold in very high regard now. You know, they're not my peers. They're they're colleagues of mine, but they're fantastic human beings. And
I think as well in hospitality, it isn't so much just colleagues; it's almost like family.
It has to be. You spend more time with these people than you do anybody else.
All the highs and the lows.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, there's nothing quite like mutual respect to make the world go round. And yeah, you know, you have a very few that you can do that with. There's a lot of shit out there. There's a lot of people who like the idea of it and all the rest of it. And the reality of cooking is it's not a glamorous job. It's very hard work. It's very sacrificial. When you meet the right people, you make friends for life, and I think that's definitely my most proudest moment.
That is a great way to end. That is a brilliant answer, and it's been a pleasure.
A pleasure
to have you on, Guy.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
And
cheers.
best of luck with everything.